Hi, welcome to another lab flip video. This time we're going to do a rock cycle simulation lab. And so there's quite a few steps to follow, and there's actually 5 parts to this lab, and you will have on your table an instruction sheet like this that will tell you specifically the 5 parts and step by step for each part. What you'll also have, of course, is a student sheet with questions to answer, and if you're paying attention and following your process like you should, the last part of each part, the last step of each part, says to complete the questions on the student sheet. So when you finish part 1, you don't just jump to part 2, you actually stop, answer these questions, and then move on to part 2. That's really important because you want to document the process as you go, because the materials you're working with are going to change during each part of the process. So you need to be documenting them before you change it again. So we want to see what's happening at each stage. So please stop and answer the questions before you move on to the next part. Equipment's pretty straightforward. You'll have a few crayons, a candle, pencil sharpener, clothespin. There'll be some pennies in your tray. Everything will be in a bin or tray of some sort. And the pennies are to pay for getting your candle lit. If you're careless and keep blowing your candle out, we're not going to keep relighting it over and over and over again. Every time we light your candle, we take a penny, and when you're out of pennies, you're done, and you're out of lights. So we're going to start with part 1, which is to take a paper towel, and you need to make some sediment, which means little pieces of broken off rock. And we're going to use the crayons to represent the sediment. So you'll have a little pencil sharpener and several different colors of crayons, and you can see that this is a pretty quick and easy way to get a bunch of crayon shavings, and it's also fairly safe because you won't actually be touching a sharp blade, and so you should be able to get a lot of shavings. And it tells you about how much to make of each color. So I'm going to switch to another color because I got me a nice little pile of blue there. You want each color in a separate pile, and you will understand why when you get to the next part of the instructions. And yes, they will stick to your fingers. So I would not wear your best clothes on Friday unless you want wax. Oh, broke it. Got the crayon stuck in there. That happens from time to time. So we will pause for a second while. Okay, so what I did was went and got a paper clip and unbent it to get the pencil sharpener unclogged. If that happens to you on Friday, just let your teacher know and she'll help you with that. We don't want anyone getting poked. Safety hazards. All right, so as you can see, I now have 3 piles of shavings, and these represent and they will tell you what they represent, but it represents the 3 types of rock. And when rocks erode, you can get the sediment of all different kinds of rocks mixed up together. So as you can see, they're still sticking to me. So that's the end of part 1, is getting the shavings done, and this is where you would stop and answer the questions on your student sheet, and then you would move on to part 2. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do that was the weathering, so we're doing the eroding or moving part now, and we're going to actually take these shavings and we're going to build up a little pile on the aluminum foil square that you'll have, and the instructions will tell you to do 1 color at a time. Put them on top of each other, and yeah, you can see this is kind of messy, and I'm getting crayon all over me and under my fingernails, but it's all for science, so it's a good thing. I would let the person in your group who's not afraid of getting messy be the one to play with the wax. But because there are multiple crayons to shave, we'll try to put more than 1 sharpener at each station if we have enough, and you guys can work together on that. It'll go faster, save you some time. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm done with that now. So what I've done is I've created, according to the instructions, my shavings in my neat little pile. Might be a little bigger than it says, but do the best you can. And then we stop and do questions again. So nothing much exciting except a bunch of sediment piled up, but we're gonna do some more questions. Then we're gonna move on to part 3. We're gonna fold it, and I don't think I really want to spoil the surprise too much about what you do exactly, so follow your instructions, because I'm really sitting here looking at everything thinking that's not going to be any fun if we spoil it for you. I am going to go on to the next safety concern with this lab though, and that is at some point you're going to be asked to heat the material, because we know that heating is part of the processes for both metamorphic and igneous rock. The heat source in this case is going to be tea candle. The insulator will be your clothespin. This is what you will use to hold the foil so you don't burn your fingers. And so when you are ready to have your heat source activated, you're going to raise your hand, and your teacher will come around and light your candle for you. And like I said, it'll cost you a penny. And then the best thing to do with your foil is just kind of fold one end over a little bit to kind of make a handle. Clip the thing on, and then we're just going to hold it over the candle like this. And the first time it'll tell you to do it for just a little bit, so you kind of want to keep an eye on it, see what's happening in there. And once it's gotten to the state that the instructions tell you it should, mine's not quite there yet, but when it does, then you will remove it. And I do believe the instructions tell you at this point, this will be the part 4 and 5. I would say you can, if you're going to leave the candle burning at this point, I would say blow the candle out, honestly, because you've got questions to answer and we don't want you catching your papers on fire. So blow out your candle, answer your questions, do what you're told to do. There's several steps here. Blow out your candle, answer your questions, get all that done. Then when you're ready for part 5 and you've rearranged the material as instructed, then you'll put your clothes, because this will cool off really quickly. It's already cool in just that short time. But when it's time again, you're going to have us light your candle. You're going to do what you need to do, and as soon as you're done, you're going to blow out the candle so that nothing catches on fire. This is one of those safety reasons why you don't wear loose clothes, and you want your hair pulled back. And you don't want anything that's going to, like even my lanyard should not be on because it could get in the fire. So if you're in the habit of wearing a lanyard, which is a good safety thing as well, ID, we know you belong here. But in this case, let's remove it during the course of the lab so we just don't accidentally get anything into the fire. This is a lot of fun. It'll take you through all of the processes of the rock cycle. The big thing is to stop and document each part of the process as you go through, and follow your instructions carefully. And as always, if you have any questions, just ask us, and we'll be happy to help you. You do need to watch the video and then take the quiz. Take it until you get 100 on it. And the secret word today is going to be giraffe. So thanks for watching, and remember, have this done by Friday, April 27th. See you then.